What's up, jobbers, and welcome to the season premiere of the Jobber Knocker podcast. As always, Nestlemania alongside for the right is a man that I always say is, "Ooh, you nasty," JC.
I don't have my shake weights, but I figured I'll just do this the whole podcast, see how long I can go. More on that later. That was from Rob. But yeah, as you said, Nestlemania season premieres this week. I thought SmackDown was super hot fire. I'd go as far as say the best SmackDown of 2023. Ooh. Raw had its high points, had its definite low points. And Nestlemania, since we're a day late and $1 short, recording on a Wednesday, not a Saturday, but a Wednesday. That means we can talk NXT. So the end of the podcast, later in the podcast, and the finish, we'll be previewing Halloween Havoc. Night 1 and night 2, which has like 2 matches as of now. But Nestlemania, I'm excited because that means I get to talk about my girl Lola, my girl Carmen, and everything in between. Which I mean,
NXT is interesting a lot. Of things going on there. I saw there were 5 women's matches next week for Halloween Havoc. So that is like, hashtag Booker
Shawn
of the
Michaels
year.
Is the GOAT. He's the GOAT booker. He's the GOAT with booking women. He's the GOAT just period. He's so much better than Triple H and Tony Khan combined.
Wow, that's an underwhelming statement for the other two, but an overstatement, I think, from everything else. But look, we can get into that later. We always start somewhere. Where do we start, JC?
Always in the shine, much like Mandy Rose, who always is in the shine of, I guess now she's a only for you fans can see her. See what I did there. But yeah, I want to start on SmackDown WrestleMania because I thought this was a near perfect show. It wasn't, the whole show wasn't shine, but most of it was. And I think I just start right off the top. I mean, Roman Reigns is back, baby. This is what we need. We need that little injection, especially on SmackDown. It's just the show isn't the same without him. So of course they trot out, they do their thing, interrupting Cena. John Boy, acknowledges him because he's Cena and he has to be can't make enemies with anyone. But he did say someone else has earned an opportunity in Nestlemania. Yeah. And they're hotshotting this. Yeah. LA Knight challenging for the whatever championship Roman Reigns has, the piss yellow one. Yeah. What do you think about that?
So I'm glad it's happening. And we've always talked about the idea of why it's important to kind of get some of these matches. Like this would be like a Royal Rumble kind of match. I think if we would both agree that, it's like it's a safe space to do it. And Crown Jewel has become a safe place for them to do things that we wouldn't necessarily enjoy, or we're not going to get the outcome that we want. And they don't give a shit because they're overseas. And so for me, it's like, I love the idea of LA Knight. I don't think he's anywhere close to becoming the world champion right now. So this is his first attempt. I mean, Shawn Michaels, how many attempts did Shawn Michaels have early in his career before he became the guy? So I look at it like this is his first test to see if he can swim in the deep end, because this is the deepest of the deep right now. I mean, it's not going against Seth Rollins, no pun intended, or slight to him, but it's a little bit different when you wrestle the tribal cuck. So for me, it is what it is. By the way, huge Wang is in the building, the Wang gang.
I mean, how could you not notice? It's
and our boy Aaron. I got to give what's up to Aaron. Good to see you. It's been a minute. Yeah, absolutely. But we love having you guys in the chat. I'm sorry it's on a Wednesday, but we both had lives. So, it is what it is. But anyway, so your thought, do you think he wins? Do you think he sniffs a win? Do you think he's
Do I
even
think
close?
he wins? Are you fucking high? Are you kidding me? You think LA Knight's gonna end the fucking 3-year cucky reign of Roman Reigns and fucking Saudi Arabia? Hell no, we ain't gonna win. But I was surprised that they're doing this one year because I thought this was a spot where they could do something. But I guess, I mean, to your point, like this is a good way where they can have Roman retain and not have a crowd rebellion. But I think it is a little bit of a missed opportunity of not having LA Knight come out for a main event entrance in front of like a big like US crowd where you would think he'd have more of the attention, but who knows? Maybe this is just part one. Maybe he's one of those few guys that gets screwed by Roman that gets a second shot. We'll see. But yeah, I thought it was definitely interesting on the timing. I did not expect it. I almost thought like maybe they just do Cena over there, just do Roman Cena. But obviously it's LA Knight. And you know what they did? Solo did the job in the main event for him. Setting that up nice to try to really elevate LA Knight a little more. But of course, he ate that spear from Roman at the end of the show. But I thought this was a good way to kind of, put him on the map. And since it's happening, like, I mean, how can we not be excited for it? Like you said, LA Knight's the man. We obviously both agree he's not ready for a world championship. But you got, like you said, you got to fail at least once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times before you finally get there when it's your first time, a lot of the times. So especially with someone like LA Knight who's come up, like the guy hasn't even had a mid-card title. It's just literally, but you know what? You strike while the iron's hot, and that's what they're doing.
The other thing that just kind of occurred to me, because you made a comment about it being a absolute kind of, oh, they should have done it in America and have that main event feel for him. But the other thing that I wanted to, that just kind of jogged my memory when you were saying that, was the last time they were in Saudi, they had that press conference and the crowd went fucking bananas and he wasn't even on the show with a press conference. Maybe it was Puerto Rico. I'm not sure, but it was something international where he wasn't even on the show.
It was Puerto Rico.
Okay. So it was something like that where it was just like, maybe that's what they think. They just think no matter where he goes, the guy's going to get a reaction. So maybe they want that. Maybe they want that feeling because the show might be completely underwhelming when it is in Saudi Arabia. Sometimes they have some good stuff. Sometimes they don't, but this is a surefire way to get people to at least look at it.
Yeah, they probably have it mapped out, obviously, with Roman's defenses because he doesn't do it very often. So they probably have it mapped out through probably WrestleMania at this point, and they're probably like, you know what? If we're gonna do an LA Night, this is the spot. This is the spot to do it because we have whether it's AJ or Lashley or Cody again or whatever they decide to do with the other guys, they probably have already mapped out. But I do want to say Nestlemania because obviously, like this segment, things changed big time on Monday. But obviously, we Cody and Jay were a fucking blast for their week and a half reign that they had. They had an absolute banger with Theory and Waller. I absolutely fucking love that match. I thought it was an absolute blast. But for me, the lead is what happened after the match. Obviously, out comes the cuck, and we get the stare down with Roman and Cody in Nestlemania. I cannot tell you, like you talk about huge Wayne. I had a huge fucking Wayne in my pants. My erection probably freaking burst through the ceiling because I was like, oh my God, they're doing it to me again. But it's just like, it was just so good because both these guys are such good storytellers without having to do literally anything. You could just feel it. You felt that heat and like instantly it was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. You're such a fucking tease, but I'm like, this is the beauty of Cody having the tag titles. We get to do this every week. No, we can't, but we'll get to that probably later in the show. But I just thought this moment was special. And I thought this like debut of SmackDown, it felt so big because I felt like there were a lot of these type of moments where it was like, whoa, like something actually happened. And to me, like this was definitely the pinnacle in my pants for sure.
Pinnacle in my pants. I'm sorry. That was good. That was good alliteration. I popped for alliteration, especially pinnacle.
So did I. Popped
you popped. Huge pop. No, look, I agree. I think the question that comes to mind is, do they wait till WrestleMania? It's like they tease it. It's still October. It is what it is. But I kind of tend to agree with you that they could switch at Royal Rumble. There's enough people there to make a fucking big kaboom about it. So it's hard. I think my only worry is that if it's at WrestleMania again, there is still a chance he loses again. So it's just like, I think any other place, I'm okay with it. But WrestleMania, I feel like that makes me nervous. It makes me I feel like
I feel like if they do it like the Royal Rumble, then he's definitely going to lose. I feel like at WrestleMania, they can't do it again. They can't. They just can't do it again. And yes, it sounds like I'm a little bit of denial because I am, but I think literally if the plan is for Roman and Rock truly at Mania and they do it with Cody at the Royal Rumble, it's like, oh my God, he's not going to win again. I'm going to have to wait for a third time probably in fucking 2028 8 or whenever the fuck Roman's gonna drop this goddamn fucking piss yellow belt. But do you think they made it piss yellow to match Cody's hair? Maybe that's what they were going for.
It's not even his real hair color. Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but that isn't the belt's real color either. They dyed it too.
I don't know.
It's a sign.
It's literally doesn't matter because whatever Cody does, you're just gonna fucking be yanking on his nutsack anyway.
Yeah,
so it doesn't
Cody's
really...
he's fucking amazing. He's the best thing. He's the number one baby in wrestling we've had since fucking Cena. It's great.
All right. Anything else that you enjoyed?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Adam Pearce getting props from Triple H. I love Adam Pearce getting recognition on a show. I've noticed that you haven't smeared him in like a year because I think you finally came around that he's a good authority figure. He gets a promotion. He's the Raw GM, and then Nestlemania. Before they could introduce the SmackDown GM, obviously, like there's no better way to introduce someone new than to bring out the fucking pretty much biggest heel in the company at this point, and Dom, in terms of reactions, just because it's like, the reaction you're going to get. So they could have brought out fucking me as the GM and people would have loved me just because of it. So I thought this was a good move. They put Nick Aldis, who's the new GM of SmackDown, in a position to succeed. He looked great in that blue suit. We love people who are matching to their roles there, but I've always been a fan for the most part of the GM stuff. Sometimes it gets a little bit too much, but like I thought the era where Bischoff was the GM, I enjoyed that. So I kind of like that we have something here, and it's just, we know the brand split's kind of bullshit anyways, but at least now with like Pierce and Aldis, there might be a little bit more of an illusion that they do it, and we might get these trades, like quote unquote, how we got here, where obviously Jay went to Raw, and we found out, as JC correctly predicted about when it happened, that it would be KO. So props to myself and pat myself on the back.
I'm fairly certain you said Sammy, but that's just...
I said Sammy or KO, but I said either way. So I was going to be right either way.
50-50.
Everyone, you included, everyone's like, it's going to be Cody. I'm like, it's not going to be Cody. It's going to be Sammy or KO, because that's how you create a dynamic on Raw. Whether it's, I thought it would be more of like a KOJ dynamic, but they fucking, like I said last week, they kind of gave it away when they had KO forgive Jay in that main event. And I was like, okay, it's a matter of time. And lo and behold, it was literally the next week. But I think it's a good move, because I think we agree that KO can do so much more in the singles department. And even though like him and Sammy, like they had the awesome moment at WrestleMania and everything, KO was second fiddle the entire time to Sammy, like in the tag team, and they didn't do much this year. And I'm ready for Badass to KO to be back. And SmackDown's pretty crowded, but I think a guy like KO can stand out. But I love the changes we got here, because SmackDown to me has been it's probably been my least favorite of the major shows. Well, that besides Dynamite, I guess. But in terms of like, I've enjoyed Raw more this year, which I don't think we've said in years. But I think Raw for the most part has been better. SmackDown, especially when Roman isn't there, has been barren. But now we have a new GM to kind of shake things up. We have a new superstar in KO. Obviously, Lashley and the Street Profits have come back in the last month. Waller and Theory have been excited. I think things are starting to pick up a little bit on SmackDown. So overarching, I think this segment is a good thing looking to the future of the SmackDown brand.
So let me put it this way to you. I'm curious, now that we have actual GMs, you think they're going to actually try to stay within the parameters of Raw and SmackDown for the most part? And perhaps they're going to give those titles a little schism for the tag team division?
That's for me. Yeah, that's the big thing is I don't know how much they can do it as long as those tag team titles are fucking unified at this point. So, because you're still going to have overlap. Now it obviously isn't Cody and Jay. It's back to being Finn and Priest. But yeah, it's going to be weird, because obviously like you have other things like Cody was showing up on SmackDown even before then. You had LA Knight on Raw for a little while. I don't know. But one thing that is intriguing to me is obviously we got a little segment with Miz on Monday. I'm thinking, is he someone who maybe gets traded to SmackDown because he kind of goes head to head with Pierce in this? So it's just kind of more of like, they have a way to on screen make things make sense now. And I just hope they utilize it.
When I looked and I said, great, like Nick Aldis, I wish I could be him for obvious reasons, but
oh yeah, what are those reasons, Adam?
Because he looks dapper in a suit personally, and he has like 10 pounds of gold in his pants, probably, that he has fun with. Anyway, that's beside the point. I like the GM thing because it's been a while since we've done the GM thing. I feel like we did Adam Pearce for 3 years, and that's fine, and it's old hat and whatever, but now we can make decisions. Before that, I think the last time it happened, I feel like this can't be true, but it feels like it's been forever. It was like the mysterious GM was the last time we had something. It feels like it's been that long.
Well, they've done like teetering things like with Constable Corbin here and there and stuff, but I think this is the first time in a while we've had actual people called GM and GM.
Yeah. And again, I don't mind the authority figure thing as long as it keeps it fresh. Like if Nick Aldis is a babyface and and Adam Pearce is a babyface for the most part, then that's fine. But I would love to see Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis wrestle, even if it's one of those things where it's like people don't know who they are in terms of their wrestling abilities, and they probably won't wrestle to their abilities. But the fact that Triple H mentioned that they both had a previous wrestling background made me think, well, that wasn't by accident. Like, you don't say those things by accident, especially in the WWE where they like the reason nobody really they get golf clap Nick Aldis is because that audience doesn't know who he is for the most part. You know what I mean?
That's why you brought out Dom, baby. That's why you brought out Dom.
Right. But all I'm saying is that's the point, right? Like, the GM can work in different ways where you can have a one-off match and do things. Because I looked and you're going to be, looking at me like I'm crazy because you usually do in this program. Thank you. Shades down. And so when I saw the Cody and Nick Aldis in the middle and then Roman, I went, Cody beat Aldis for the NWA title at All Out way back, right? And I'm thinking to myself, we never got Pierce and Roman, even though they teased it, right? We never got it. And I'm thinking to myself, I would put money on Aldis versus Roman. I think over time, if they can make it work, I think it'd be fascinating. I think because you look at him and he's like, the dude's he's just chiseled. He looks like American Dad. Like, he just looks jacked with a fucking, like, he just looks like a rock. Like, he really is. Not the Rock, but looks like a fucking chiseled rock. So I would believe it. So I'd be interested to see where this goes personally, but we can move on.
Oh yeah, that was most of SmackDown with that stuff. The other thing was kind of like, maybe we'll get to it later. But I want to jump over to Raw Nestlemania because you hear that noise? JC's meat match of the week. This is a pretty easy one this week. I mean, without a doubt, it is on Monday Night Raw. It is the Intercontinental Championship. It is Gunther versus the Tsunami Bronson Reed. Nestlemania. Look, it's one of those things where I know people want to, Roman wants people to acknowledge him. I think the world needs to acknowledge Gunther, because how often do we come on the show and be like, Gunther just had a fucking 5-star TV match, 5 flames. Like I feel like we say it constantly. And I know we've talked about a lot how like best champion is like, oh, Orange Cassidy had a great year. Wesley had a great year. It's like, well, Gunther's might have had the best of like anyone ever, especially with this championship, which is riddled with history. I mean, there's been plenty of good icy reigns, obviously, over the course of that title's career. But what Gunther is doing now, especially when we look back, truly is historic because that title feels so special. It feels like the main title on that show. He makes it feel good, and that man fucking delivers every time he has a big match. This was obviously a very meaty match, so I was a big fan. Bronson Reed, very underrated in himself, and Triple H let these guys cook, man. He let them cook and he let them go, and they gave us a fucking TV masterpiece, which it was one of those matches that holds up even with the commercials, picture-in-picture, all the bullshit that can usually kind of slow us down. I was all in for this, man. It was absolute delight to watch, and it is a definite winner of JC's meat match of the week.
Slap. So we got burned last week by our boy TJ. So I want to make sure we definitely, if you like what JC's cooking over here with the meat match of the week, go over to www.tpublic.com/jobberknocker. Pick up your JC's meat match of the week t-shirt, as well as Full Circuit is now in the shop as well, and some other amazing designs. But the meat match of the week that JC has talked about is now a t-shirt, be courtesy of TJ, who just had a birthday. So I'm doing
happy birthday, TJ.
I'm just gonna say all the nice things about him now. He does t-shirt design. He does all the stuff for the Twitters and the t-shirts and the knocker and all the nonsense that he does. We love him. So there you go, TJ. I just threw up all over you about how great you are. There you are. Going back to the meat match of the week, the one thing I really enjoyed about this, and it's not that it happens all the time with a Gunther match, but it probably happens more than I'd like to admit. But this one, it was a glaring thing that I really enjoyed, was the vulnerability of Gunther. This was the first time where I really felt like they were harnessing all their energy into this guy isn't unbeatable. He can be beaten, but you got to be on your best day. And Bronson Reed did a great job just throwing himself around, beating the shit out of him, and then taking it and then beating him. And so I just thought kicking out of stuff, and then Gunther just having to fucking muscle him up and power bombing his ass, struggling. The idea of struggling is so much better because he's already broken the record. He's had the championship for a very long time. But when you see the vulnerability, that's a 3-dimensional character. And honestly, I'll call myself on the carpet here. What I didn't really enjoy about Gunther was I thought he was just 1-dimensional or 2-dimensional. And I felt like the last piece of the puzzle was that I wanted to see some type of like, dent in the armor, so to speak, a little bit more and a little bit more. Gable was the first person to really turn that. But now, like, they're starting to question, can he go? Can he continue this reign? Can he continue this pace? And I love that portion of it because it makes those matches better because now anybody that goes up against him is a threat. And I don't want to see him squash people and chop people anymore. I want to see him wrestle. And that's what he's getting to do.
Yeah, and he's someone that like he's been committed since he came over here, because when he first started NXT UK and he was the launch champion there, those reports of being like, oh, he doesn't ever want to leave continental Europe. He loves it over there. He'd never come over here, blah, blah. But not only did the guy come over here, he uprooted his family. He changed his name. He did everything. He showed up at NXT, did some work down there and came up. And this guy has just adapted himself and like, look it, I am who I am, but I'm going to get my body to a WWE body and I am going to adapt the WWE style. And I think that's the big thing people like when we look at a lot of these like prospects that come from all different places and all these things, especially ones that weren't really groomed in NXT. It's like when they get here, there is definitely like a point where they need to decide, like, are they all into becoming a WWE superstar? Are they really not into that? And then maybe like they don't really adapt to the style, and those ones usually don't make it. But Gunther's like the perfect example of someone who just went all in, bet on himself, and he's come out and he's just delivered. Like he's still doing what he's always done. He just changed himself to what he like the edges, what he needed to really fit the mold and bring his unique thing. And it makes him unique. His matches are unique. His style's unique. The way he cuts promos is unique. The way he acts is unique. The way he treats his stablemates is unique. It's been such a joy to watch his evolution and his transformation, because I mean, you could always kind of see like little bits, but I never would have expected for him to get to this level and be this good and be like, wow, I really could see this guy as like a heel face of this company, as a guy to lead a brand, as a guy to win Royal Rumble, main event of WrestleMania, be a multi-time world champion. And so I'm looking at it now and it's like, there's no doubt in my mind he can do all those things.
All right. Moving on. Something else is positive.
The kaboom of the week. I mean, it's got to be Ricochet, right? This man. I fucking love Ricochet. He's a stud. He obviously did not beat Nakamura, but they did their falls count anywhere thing, and he did his little. And I'll always enjoy that. But one thing to say, people, other wrestlers, when you watch it, the way Ricochet does kabooms, like, yes, there are some things that only he can do that people shouldn't do, period. But the man, like, I just feel like he's one of those guys where, like, I don't feel like he's at risk as other people when they do these type of moves, because I don't know. There's just something about him. He's just so graceful, and it looks so goddamn good when he does everything. So it's a joy to watch him do what he does best. Nakamura probably needed this win. I mean, Ricochet is one of those guys who he could lose every week, and I don't think people would care because you just send him out there and he has one of the matches of the night. I thought this match probably would have been the best match on the show if Gunther and Reed didn't exist, but unfortunately it gets the number 2 pegging, but I still enjoyed it.
So the one thing I really want to point out here was, as much as it was a stud performance from Ricochet, I thought this was Nakamura's best match in a long time. I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was
Seth.
I know. It's just hard because I think that we all know what Ricochet is. We all know that Ricochet can do pretty much anything in that ring. There's a couple of gears he needs to find in order to get to that next level, but still star-making performance. But Nakamura, we've shit on constantly, and I went like, maybe it was his dance partner. It had to be his dance partner for the last 2 months, because this was the opposite of like, okay, like I enjoyed this. It's like, it's almost like it's a comfort level for me as a viewer. Like, I'm comfortable where Nakamura is in that matchup, in that point of the show, in that lane. I'm okay with. You put him a little bit higher, I don't care. You put him a little bit lower, I'm going, he deserves better. I feel like he's right where he's supposed to be in that point. So I enjoyed it. And I think that, again, having a Falls Count Anywhere match gave him the edge he needed, and gave Ricochet a little bit of edge too, because the dude can now fly off the fucking balcony and do some crazy shit and land on 45 people. Take note, Darby Allin, instead of in Sting, which is probably, unfortunately, Sting is giving his retirement on Wednesday night here, which is, I'm sure Dom is going to cry. I already texted him letting him know that.
If you think he's retiring on Wednesday, you're crazy.
Okay, well, we'll find out, I guess, in a little bit. If anybody's watching and listening at the same time, please let us know, because I'm not watching right now, obviously. Yeah, I'm looking at you.
And this beautiful face. Nestlemania. Yeah. So we kind of like mentioned Seth there, but my next piece of shine isn't really about him, because honestly, His segments are just all fucking the same, man. He just goes out. It just, I don't know. It feels like they're not trying with him and he's not trying with him. It's just the same old song dance. The crowd honestly was pretty dead for him, which was weird because normally he gets one of the hottest reactions. But that crowd wasn't great this week on Raw in general. But to me, one of the most interesting things on Raw still remains Drew McIntyre. Everything about it. Let's run down the list of interesting things he did. Obviously, that segment with Seth. He got very angry with him. They kind of went back and forth. I thought Drew shined there. But it's the little things that Seth pointed out. Him talking to Ripley backstage behind, I believe it was a Pierce thing going on. That is very interesting because we obviously know he doesn't want Priest involved in that. So you think a little deal's working there, and that's probably going to create some friction between Rhea and the other members of Judgment Day. But the best part for me of Drew McIntyre on Raw was his interaction with Sami Zayn backstage. They let this backstage segment really breathe to really get their point across. But when Drew delivered the line about Sami not understanding things because he's never been a world champion, I was like, oh, this is the shit. Like, Drew may swing his schlonny sword, but this was the deepest cut he made on Monday. Oh boy, do I love this. But it's continuing to show that Drew is just teetering, man. He is just teetering. And it's one of those things. Seth brought it up and Sammy brought it up about how he's going to have no one to blame but himself when he loses that crown jewel, which we expect that he will. That's probably the breaking point because that's one of those things. That's how you create a heel turn. When you get someone who finally that's the moment. And they're just building it so well with McIntyre and we can just feel it. And every week that gets by, it makes it more and more interesting. I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching. I'm like, I kind of want him to win this thing. And it's one of those, it's like, not only do I want him to win, I want Priest to take it away from him almost instantaneously just to watch him snap. So there's a lot of possibilities with it. He's been so good, but I especially thought that interaction with Sammy was so good. Obviously, they're wrestling next week, but it's just one of those things. We saw it with Kofi. Drew kind of getting angry at him. Now we're seeing it with Sammy. So he's teetering, man. And man, I'm finding it so interesting.
It's so funny to me because you took the words right out of my mouth when you were saying, now you can't blame yourself. I mean, sorry, you can't blame anybody but yourself. And I thought that was a nice little storytelling nugget because I feel like that fits the package, right? Like that, oh, I won in a pandemic and I kept my pants on and I kept going and blah, 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 while everybody else is fucking shitting themselves. I did all this stuff. But that's just the world we lived in at that time. And he did what he could and he did a good job. And then, the fans came back and he didn't even get a chance. And I think that's the hardest part for all of us is
and he got the screwed by Roman thing, which everyone has, but
right.
It's one of those, I just love that every single point of that was brought up. And you could see the look on McIntyre's face. It's just this guy that we have been so hard on the last couple of years of not being interesting. It was just all of a sudden on a whim. They told him, it's like, buddy, we're turning you heel in a few months. So start fucking just letting loose out there. And man, this is I think honestly, and I don't think this is crazy to say, this is the best character work of his career, and it's not close because this shit is really good.
So here's my problem with this, right? And it's not a big problem to have. It's a good problem. He turns heel at some point. I'm wrong, obviously, about everything. But here's the other thing that I wanted to know was when he turns, it's almost like Gunther is going to be nipping at his heels. It's just like, who's in the WrestleMania spot? I mean, it's Gunther in my opinion, but he's doing so well, he deserves it. It's like, it's a weird thing. It's almost like, I agree with you. It's almost like he has to win, lose immediately to Priest, and then he cashes in when he wins Money in the Bank, later in June or something. I can see that happening with him. Him being the next Money in the Bank guy, because him getting fucked over yet again, and then he gets his chance to do it on his terms makes perfect sense to me. If I was thinking long-term.
And I think if we kind of map it out, what we could do, just to map it out, and this is just spitballing off the top of my head, of something that I think would be interesting is obviously he wins it, loses immediate to Priest. Maybe they have a mini feud. He never gets it. He's fucking angry, blah, blah, blah. And then it's one of those things where he gets kind of involved with Cody, because I think that's really how you cement him as a heel. Maybe that's around the Rumble thing, blah, blah, blah. They screw each other out of the Rumble. Gunther probably wins the Rumble. And then we get to it, like you kind of allude to this, like McIntyre, something at WrestleMania. I don't know what it is. They find some baby face for him to face, but then he wins Money in the Bank. And if all things go to JC's plan, who's the fucking Universal Champion at that point in WrestleMania? It's Cody goddamn Rhodes. So who's Drew McIntyre cashing in on? I think that's an option I think I could see long-term going. That I think would be interesting to me, but I mean, who knows? They still got so many things to flesh out. We got so much time, but all I know is right now, week to week, this is the most interested I've been in Drew McIntyre in his entire career.
Well said. I don't think there's anything else to do. Anything else you want to talk about? Or you want to move on to the Heat?
Last note I have is we have to talk about the most handsome, the most elegant man on Monday Night Raw, picking up another big singles win. Ludwig Kaiser defeats Johnny Gargano, who was without Tommaso Ciampa. He got a little help from a little Vini Vidi Vici there, even though he didn't get credit for it from either Ludwig or Gunther. But he eventually did get a little help there. But nonetheless, Ludwig Kaiser continuing to pick up singles wins. I'm a huge fan of his. You're a big fan of his, so we love it. His in-ring work is fucking stellar. I'm curious, like this highlighting thing they're doing and this teasing about kicking out Vinci and all this stuff. Like, I'm curious how this kind of plays out, but I'm enjoying it because I love Ludwig, and more Ludwig on my TV, the better.
One note that I wanted to say was Vinci with the thumb to the eye at the end there. I was just thinking to myself, I don't think I've seen that. And I've seen people put their foot on the rope, put the foot on the rope or do something weird. I've never seen somebody just do a thumb to the eye while a pin attempt. Like I just went so simple. So like, that's the thing. Sometimes people like I've watched people try to go, oh my God, I got to do this fucking, Tower of Doom suplex to fucking pop the crowd. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know what works? Simple. Thumb to the eye. It worked. That's you know what I mean? And then he fucking put him in the brazier fucking DDT and then fucking won the match. It was like, whatever. Well, it's like he just looks like he's stumbling in the dark to take a girl's bra off, and then he gives him it's the fucking Andrade DDT. But it's just, that's what I call it, the brazier DDT. It just looks fucking stupid. If he's taking a bra off in the dark.
When he does it, it looks elegant.
Well, yeah, of course. I can't say anything wrong about him. The man wins at every level of life. But no, I totally agree with you. I think that's wonderful. Can we get Heaty, please? Get him off my TV. Get him off my TV. Get him off my TV. Where do we begin?
The main event of Monday Night Raw.
There it is. So clearly we have the Judgment Day regaining their tag team championships. To me, I texted you after it happened. I just said, I hope you fucking see this. I hope you fucking understand how upset this made me. Because like you said it earlier in the program. It was like, we have this new breath of fresh air. They had fun at the fucking scrum. They were having the crowd go nuts for it. And they could get them on SmackDown when they needed to. And now they're not. And it just was just like, I felt like Judgment Day was losing steam anyway. So this was kind of breathing life into everything, having Jay and Cody win those things. And they just take it away. And the other thing too is, we've talked about this probably ad nauseum, but I think it bears repeating right now, is they didn't do a good enough job telling us why Jimmy's back in the bloodline. They didn't do a good enough job with that. They're falling apart with that. And then they did say like, go take care of it. So he took care of it. And on Monday, but I just feel like we're skipping, like they made a joke. We're not in the third inning anymore, which is great. But I think we're skipping a couple innings here. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're losing.
It's one of those things. It's like we all fell asleep through the middle innings because baseball's so slow and boring, and we woke up in the eighth and it's a whole different game. We have no idea how it happened. It's just because like last we saw, Jimmy was talking to Jay about leaving the bloodline and kind of motivating him and spinning those wheels in motions. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy's the one who screws him, and Jimmy's the one who now wants back in the bloodline. It's just, it's all been nonsensical from that perspective from the get-go. And then, like you said, the Cody J thing, it was just so deflating because it's like, okay, this is a nice little fun thing for these two guys who are both fucking white hot right now with the crowd. And obviously it's one of those things like they're just treading water with both of them until they can get to Cody and Roman 2, whenever that is. And then Jay and Jimmy most likely at WrestleMania in their match. So it's just, they kind of got to get creative. And I was like, oh my God, the tag titles. If you would have told me it, I would have been like, no, that's stupid. But then seeing it in the presser and then SmackDown, I was like, this could be a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun matches these guys could have. There's a lot of fun segments. You're going to get them on both shows. They're two guys that are pretty impossible to overexpose right now because they're both so over. And then it just all of a sudden, after like whatever it was, 9 days or whatever, they just pull the rug out from under us. They reset it back on the Judgment Day, who, like you said, is definitely losing a little luster. I think Rhea and Dom are still very interesting, but Priest and Finn, I mean, Finn is just, he's done nothing. And JD's like not even around. He's been the most interesting part of Judgment Day, and it's just like he's not even around. And I don't know, man. This just seemed like a weird call. Obviously, I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, but it's just like, if we're just playing hot potato at this point with these things, it's like, what are we doing? We're doing disservice to everyone, including those titles.
The only thing I think of is that there's going to be a screw job where they're going to have a rematch at fucking
Crown Jewel.
And then there's a fucking like double pin and they'll break up the tag title. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head, but I don't even think they're
but
going to
they're
do
all
that.
Raw superstars.
No, I know,
That's
right?
the
So it's
problem.
like,
so that doesn't even work. So it just,
right.
it's, I don't know. It's such a weird, it was such a weird decision to do. I didn't expect the Cody J thing to be long term, but it just, for it to happen this quickly. And then Jimmy just kind of, it was, I don't know. It just felt wrong. It felt like they made the wrong decision.
I tend to agree with you. To me, it just makes me feel like one thing is for sure is that they don't give a fuck about anybody but the Judgment Day on Raw. They really do, like, in terms of like, that's their bread and butter. They fucking weave that thread throughout the night with the Judgment Day. And that's what they're comfortable with right now. And again, it's fine. But if you keep using the bloodline as a template, you're going to fuck yourself over in terms of, we're just going to get fatigued by it. I think we're already fatigued with the bloodline. So we're going to get
fatigued with Priest and Finn, because I don't understand what, like, they were like thing. It's just like they're on again, off again. It's just one of those things. It's like you got to figure it out. Like Dom's doing his own thing. Like he's still in NXT a little bit here and there. And I think Rhea, like, even though she doesn't defend that title a lot, she's probably one of the most champions there is, because she feels dominant just by existing. But it's just like, it's the Finn Priest stuff is just so weird.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it anymore. I mean, we literally, I think we all probably have faction fatigue, if we're being honest here. Like, that's really what it is.
It doesn't bother me that much, because I don't think WWE, I think WWE for the most part does well with it, whereas AEW, I think the way they handle factions is for the most part pretty shitty, because it's just so fucking random and shit. But I don't know. I think this is truly a Judgment Day thing. I think it's a Finn and Priest thing, because we have that Senior Money in the Bank. We had the thing going back with him and Finn, and then we had JD, and it's all over the place. Much like the Bloodline stuff, it's just all over the place.
Moving on to something else. Let's move on. You said SmackDown was nearly perfect, but was there something specific that you did not enjoy?
I didn't really enjoy the women's segment, unfortunately. Bailey beat Zelina with some chicanery. Charlotte made the save in heels and looked absolutely ridiculous doing it. This is becoming a thing, but it's just like, I'm watching this and I was like, her stumbling to the ring as slow as she can in heels trying to make a save, and Damage Control looks like a bunch of like wimps just immediately running away. It's like, she's not even halfway down the ramp yet, and you're already running away. There's three of you when she's in heels. It just,
do you want a stiletto to the eye? I don't.
I ain't scared.
Well, I don't want that anywhere near my nut sack.
That kind of felt silly to me.
I don't know. I agree. I agree. It wasn't necessarily the best thing in the world, but it is what it is. Staying on topic, Natty.
Wake up!
Sorry, I've been awake since 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't take coffee. This is what you get. Natty gets motorboated by a fan and then has a match with Piper, and she loses, and Tegan makes a save. Woohoo! Like, it's just like, whatever it is. It like anything with Natty, I don't really care. It is what it is, but it has to exist for some reason, and I don't understand.
It's
why.
one of those things, because it's like, it feels like they're setting up Natty and Tegan to be in a tag team, but it also feels like it has those vibes where Natty's kind of jealous of Tegan and probably going to turn on her, and they're going to use Natty as a device to try to get Tegan more over or whatever. And I don't know, with Natty, you never know if those things will work. Obviously the matches are good, but it's just a weird thing, because then they were on NXT as well, and they kind of had it like Chelsea and Piper were down there as well. So it feels like there's going to be a women's tag match with that, but I'm still like, I'm a little weary of that actually being a tag team. It feels maybe more like there's more at play, because Natty's been kind of heelish for a while now. So I feel like there's something more they're digging at. So that part of it intrigues me, but the rest of it, it just not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. Something else I want to bring up, very, very small and minuscule, but I think it bears some type of weight here. I was kind of pissed off at John Cena at the beginning of SmackDown. Because here's my thought process. And Mark Henry said it before I could even say it on this program, was he was eating up and chewing up the scenery behind him. And it was a very specific moment for LA Knight. But for some reason, it felt like you were watching John Cena in the background doing fucking hokey clowny shit. And it when I was watching, it's in my notes, but Mark Henry got to it first. But it's true. Like, he knows better. Like, I know he's trying to help, but what should have happened was he should have left or stayed at the outside of the ring. But it was like, because Solo was there, they needed to have fucking equalized. I get it. But I thought that John Cena did a really bad job of, like, we joke on this, the Macho Man in the moment, where you run up and fucking point to the guy, but like, and make it about yourself. it just felt like John Cena wasn't kind of staying in the background when he should have been. And it bothered the fuck out of me because I was sitting there so confused going, okay, LA Knight, let's fucking go. Like, this is a big deal. And then all I kept thinking about was the way they're shooting it. I keep seeing Cena behind him. And it made me feel like, why is he there? Like, what are we doing? Are we going to get Solo and Cena? Are we going to do anything? Like, what are we doing here? It seems odd.
It definitely is, but I think it's more of like WWE doing this by design because they're trying to. They probably feel like they don't feel comfortable with LA Knight by themselves. So like we're gonna have Cena kind of be like his rah-rah, just so to kind of like output him up. Which whether he needs it or not, it's like that's kind of the way WWE kind of does these things. And it's just I don't know. I definitely agree. It was a little off-putting, but I put it less on Cena and more on that. I mean, I think his intentions were pure, but yeah, he definitely overdid it. But I also think that it probably feels like it's by design by WWE because it's a very much WWE thing to do the way they handle that.
Absolutely. It bothers me because what are we doing with Cena now, right? Like,
well, wasn't he supposed to be gone by now? I don't even know.
He was supposed to be by the end of October. He was done, but
okay, so we have a couple weeks.
But
is he at Crown Jewel? Do we know?
I have no idea. Like, what is he going to do? Special guest ref again? I don't know. I think the hardest part for me is like this Screen Actors Guild thing isn't off strike. Like they're still striking. So, and Netflix isn't going to pull out in terms of paying any actor. So it's just like this could go on for a very long time. Does that mean we get Cena till the Rumble? You know, like what are we doing? I don't know. It's bizarre to me because I feel like they're protecting Cena with all these tag matches. They don't mean anything. They're fun, but for me, I'm not really enjoying it as much as I was hoping for because I feel like we're not really getting a full-fledged Cena. We're not getting everything out of him that we can. And I'm trying to enjoy it as best as I possibly can. He's got some great, barbs back and forth and doing great promo work, but I'm just not loving it because I guess maybe I had the false pretense in my mind that he was going to wrestle a little bit more than he is, but it just bothered me. I just thought that maybe one singles match a month would be helpful, but there's not. Well,
it felt like we were headed when he first came back. It was going to be Cena and Jimmy. It felt like at a pay-per-view at some point, but with Jimmy kind of messing around with Cody, I don't know. It feels kind of all over the place. So I don't know. Because I felt like that would be maybe a match at Crown Jewel. You could do Cena and Jimmy. But I honestly, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on with it. It's still kind of a mess. He's kind of entered the bloodline orbit, and shockingly, it's all over the place.
Anything else you want to get hopeful?
We get hopeful. Glorious.
You are my only hope. You want me to go first?
Want me to go?
I got one. You got one?
Yeah, America, baby. America. The U.S. title. America. If you guys watched the little fucking bullshit boxing match on Saturday where Logan Paul and Dylan Dumbass had a little scuffle and the little nonsense happened. After the fight, when he was being interviewed by Ariel Helwani, Logan Paul called out Rey Mysterio in the United States title. By the way, shout out WWE. This is like the stuff of like this is huge for them. Their mid-card title being called out on one of the most fucking watched things of the year just because it's a fucking Paul brother. This is why Logan Paul is a win. Because it makes it feel bigger. He's going on shows talking about it. You have Rey Mysterio going on shows talking about it. And it's like, this hasn't even happened yet. And everybody's like, oh my God, a Logan Paul, Rey Mysterio. It kind of feels like a big deal. And I'm assuming this is going to be the book for Crown Jewel. We'll find it on Friday because Logan Paul is on SmackDown. He's also going to be on Raw, but I'm assuming we're heading for that. And you know what, Nestlemania? We've kind of talked about this before, but I want to make it an official hope. My hope is that Logan Paul wins that United States title from Rey Mysterio. SmackDown's already a weird show because it's shorter. And we kind of like people were very critical of Theory's United States title reign. But I think it was more of like the fact that it's on SmackDown. And especially now that we're getting in a busy season, Roman's going to be around more, which means you got long-ass entrances, long-ass promos, long-ass segments. So there's less time overall on the show. So why not have another part-time champion? You know? This is, I think, the perfect time for Logan Paul to win that championship. He'll carry it around wherever he goes. He'll wear it on his podcast. It'll be good exposure. And also, him and Ray are probably going to have another fucking banger. But I think it's best for business. I think it makes sense. I think it kind of sucks for the Santos thing, but I think this is more important. Maybe Santos helps Logan Paul win it because he's mad at Ray and thinks he doesn't deserve it. That would be interesting to me, but my main hope is that Logan Paul wins the U.S. title. Hashtag JC knows. Hashtag JC hopes come true. Hashtag America.
Fuck yeah. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. So I agree with you. I think that Logan Paul winning would be great for the title, great for WWE and all that stuff. My only question to you is, if fucking Tribal Cut goes away and fucking Logan Paul goes away, why does anybody on SmackDown need to fight? Like,
maybe
there's
they'll do
nothing
a good job.
to do.
Maybe they'll do a good job booking the women's championship for once.
No, but what do the men do? There's no tag titles. There's no singles titles.
There
Like,
can
what do
be
you do
tag
on
titles.
what do
Maybe
you
there
do on
can be
SmackDown?
tag titles.
Like, if it's a little run and he shows up every once in a while, it's fine.
Yeah, so we pretty much already done this for the whole year. Because
No,
it's
I'm
like
just
one of those
saying.
things. People were critical of Theory because he didn't do anything. So it's like, what's the point? And Roman was already gone. This has literally been SmackDown for the whole year. So what's different? Nothing. Nothing's different.
Well, it's because they didn't want to use them. That's one thing. But like Joe
But I'm
says,
just saying
what
it's the same
titles get
thing.
defended on SmackDown?
Exactly. There's no titles. There hasn't been all year.
It's weird to me though, because I feel
But
like
there hasn't been it. It's literally been like this the whole year. So why not make that title interesting?
But it feels like that's the problem I'm having watching SmackDown is you can only go so far with personal issues. You can only do so much, you know, and I don't look at it like you have to be fighting for championships. You have to be fighting for championships for you to be better and progress and all that stuff. Like you want to win championships. I understand that. That's what sports is about. But if you have the Treble Cuck not around and you have Logan Paul not around, what are we doing?
But here's the thing. You're saying the Tribal Cuck's not going to be around. It's like, you know, we're in October, right? He's clearly working Crown Jewel. He's probably going to work Survivor Series.
Not going to work December.
Yeah, that's 1 month. So that's four shows. If they have like a day one event again, he's probably going to be on that. He's going to be in the Royal Rumble. So it's like we're getting in a territory where Roman Reigns is actually going to be around. He's already been off. So that's kind of my point of why I don't mind this is Logan Paul can come and go because there's going to be a lot more Roman Reigns. We're going to start getting into the.
But he's not going to defend it.
He never defends it anyways. He hasn't defended it in 3 years. He's defended it once since WrestleMania. That was my biggest point with the Cody thing of why Roman to do everything he's done since WrestleMania, he hasn't needed that title, and it just because it was all bloodline business. The title added nothing to it; it just held everything back, and that's why it's going to be one of the biggest what ifs ever. But it's one of those things like he's going to be around now a lot more than he has been, obviously, for the last 6 months because we're starting to get towards the territory of like the bigger shows and these bigger things. So there's going to be a lot more Roman. So I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue. If they did this in the middle of summer when Roman wasn't around, then yeah, I think it'd be a bigger issue. But I think at this point, it's like they got the horses now. And it's one of those things like they're moving KO over to SmackDown. Carlito just came back. It's like they got plenty of interesting characters they can do. So if Roman's even only there every other week, the show will for the most part be fine. It won't be any different than it has been the whole year.
For me, it's hard for me to get over the fact that both of those will go away. And you're going to say, no, they won't, but time will tell.
But it's also like, it's one of those things. It's like you want to have someone like Theory just have it and not get
no. But Ray has it. But Ray's had it and probably defended a couple times. I think at least.
Yeah, because they've actually made it a priority.
Yeah.
And the LWO is already something that's been on TV every week, no matter what.
No,
so they just threw a title on it.
I'll be honest here. Maybe they said, sure. He's like, I want a championship. Okay, you got to wrestle more. You got to be here more. And if he is, kudos to him. I'll have no fucking problem. Elite Crow will be done with it. But we know that with these celebrities, most of the time, especially Logan Paul, shows up, goes away, shows up, goes away. So maybe we'll get more. I don't know. Even if it's from now to the Royal Rumble and he's there 3 months, I'm cool with it. Like, I think that's wonderful. But it's just difficult for me to sit there and be like, if they're both gone, because I think they will be for portions of the next part of the year, or the last part of the year.
It's going to, obviously, we know Roman's not going to work every date, but it's just like we just mapped it out. Crown Jewel, Survivor Series. If they do something around the new year, and because they always do, and then and you're immediately in a Rumble season. It's like we're on our way. There's going to be, there might be, maybe he misses 2 in a row randomly in like December or something like that. But it's just like it's not going to be a big of a deal. It's not like the whole year. I think this is a good move. It's good because this title has, like, Ray has been okay with it, but I think we agree the U.S. title has been trashed for a long time. Pretty much, especially since that's when it was on Raw, and it had to be because it was the main title on Raw. Right. And Raw had these same issues last year. It just shifted to SmackDown now. So I think this is a good move. I think it's a home run. I think it makes a lot of sense. And him winning it over in Saudi Arabia is, of course, always interesting too.
Delightful. Night, Jojo. So the one thing I want to say for my hope here is I was very enticed by KO being on SmackDown. I thought that was really cool and interesting. The only thing that I could think about was this is what my hope is. So we're getting to War Games. We're going to have, the Sammy, the KO, the Codys against Judgment Day / Bloodline. We'll see if that's just Bloodline or Judgment Day. I don't really know. But anyway, they're going to need a 4th member. they're going to pick KO, right? They're going to somehow have some transfer window for one night only. KO would do it. It's great, right? Here's the kicker for me. At the end of that matchup, I want KO to turn on all three of those dudes and be like, fuck you, Cody. Fuck you, Jay. Fuck you, Sammy. And then just feed them to the wolves and walk out and be like, here you go. Because here's twofold for me. KO cannot go after the Universal Championship again. It's too much. It's ad nauseum. It's fucking happened too much. He's not fucking winning. He's awesome. Let him have his thing. And the only way you can do that is by flipping the script and letting him be a heel on SmackDown, give me a fresh new outlook on life and doing all that stuff, because a heel KO is fantastic. It's fucking incredible. Having a heel asshole KO is even better. And here's the kicker for me. When it's time for KO to get his title shot against Cody Rhodes, that fucking program is going to be a fucking awesome feud and banger. That's a Hell in a Cell. That's a ladder match. There's all sorts of fucking kabooms you can have and that Cody will fucking go nuts for. The I love your dad more than you loved your dad thing can happen. And just, there's so many things there that happen. KO being a heel on SmackDown needs to fucking turn very quickly, and SmackDown needs a big heel once Roman Reigns leaves. So there you go. KO, I'm in. I'm excited. Let's do this.
The only problem with that is, obviously you mentioned the bloodline, but you also have Lashley being a freshly minted heel top star on SmackDown. You have Theory and Grayson. That's my only concern, is like when they did this, I was excited because I kind of agree with you in your hope, but I was just like, it sure feels like they're going to kind of like just have him do his baby thing. I think it would probably be smart to keep him away from Cody and friends and try to like move on a little bit. But I don't know. It just, as much as I like the move, like thinking of it logistically, it's like, I could see him doing a fun program with like Theory, a fun program with Waller. Maybe he does something with Lashley, but it feels like they're kind of going to milk the baby thing a little longer, unfortunately.
Fine. Poo-poo again. Every hope I have you, poo-poo.
I'm just being realistic here.
No, you're
Adam.
not. No, you know what you do. First off, who the fuck is Adam? Secondly, every time I open my mouth during my hope, I can physically feel you dropping your pants and just letting out a big stinky turd all over my hope. That's what you do. That's what you do on this program. That's what you do.
I'm sorry. It's called a hope for a reason. And I mean, someone's got to crush your dreams. So I try to do it nicely before you get your hopes up even more.
You know what you are? You, sir, are a hope shamer.
That's not true. I'm a hope killer.
Hope killer, shamer, whatever.
You're the shamer. I'm a killer.
Well,
I kill bullshit.
Can you make that a t-shirt? I kill bullshit.
I kill bullshit.
I kill bullshit. Somebody will fucking make that.
God.
I kill bullshit. All right. Time to get a comeback going here, folks. I'm going to give my comeback to the entire freaking Raw women's division, because it seemed like they paraded all of them women's out on Monday. And I was like, holy shit. And it's just like, there's one, there's another, there's one, there's another. I was like, holy shit, we're going to have 5 women at fucking Crown Jewel. And there's all these people backstage with Tegan, and then there's fucking Indy and Becky. And I'm like, holy shit, there is a real division on SmackDown. So for me, I'm giving my comeback to the women's division, because they were shitting all over women's wrestling in WWE for the last couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. And now we're excited again. So I'm excited to see where this goes, because the women deserve it. There's 3 hours. Let them fucking fight. Let them go. Let them do their thing. So there's my comeback. Let's go, Raw women's division. I'm excited.
It's nice that Rhea has some competition. I'm excited that there's that many women that's going to be wrestling at Crown Jewel. But sorry, Nestlemania, I've been working out, because my comeback goes to Tozawa. Gable said he didn't do a good job, but the best part of that segment, that whole segment between Gable, Otis, and the New Day, is in the background. You're at Tozawa just working his little like 4-pound weights, going to town. This guy, no matter what you do with him, which they don't do much with him, but he's like lately he's been a part of a lot of backstage stuff. He makes the most of his opportunities. Like his facials are incredible. We know he's actually a pretty good wrestler, but it's just like he's really leaned in to become like the comedic guy on Raw, because there's always one. It's like Slater's one of my favorite of all time in those roles, and there's plenty of guys that have come and gone, but Tozawa's really embraced it, because it's one of those things. I think people have always wanted like better for him, and especially once the cruiserweight division ended, it's one of those things. He's way smaller than a lot of these guys, but he kind of found his niche where he gets to do these fun things, and he's still doing it, so he clearly enjoys it. But he makes the most out of these little opportunities, and those are the guys I always appreciate. So I'd say it was something so simple, didn't expect, didn't even really have to say any fucking words till the very end, because the picture's worth 1,000 words, baby. So Tozawa, you're getting my comeback, buddy.
I just love the arigato thing. Like that just cracked me up. Like and then he just went back to fucking and then sealing the deal with Xavier Woods going, Tozawa, you nasty. Like I couldn't, like the whole thing was just like bonkers. And then they all started doing the hip gyration and like doing the bob and the weave. And I'm like, all five, even Maxine, six, all of them, they're all sitting there and they're all just having a good time. I'm like, this is what wrestling is. This fuck the fucking wrist, fucking doing the wrist gimmicks and the fucking grappling and shit. Like this is the stuff I love. I don't care about your grapples. Just I don't care. I care about this fucking haha shit. This is great stuff.
It is. It is set up a match for next week. We'll talk about Raw and SmackDown quickly, but on Raw, since we're right there, we're getting New Day versus the Alpha Academy, who both are declaring to wanting to go after the tag titles. It's nice to see real tag teams going for tag titles. We have, like we alluded to earlier, we have McIntyre taking on Sami Zayn. We have Vini Vidi Vinci. Gio's taking on Gargano, from what it sounded like. And then we also have another NXT Women's title match. Which is funny because I believe Becky is also defending it next Tuesday on night one of Halloween Havoc. But the night before, she was defending against Indy Hartwell, who never lost it. So what do you think of Raw Nestlemania?
I'm excited for Sammy and Mac. I think there's going to be good storytelling. That could be a main event if they wanted it to be. I don't know, but they probably won't. They'll probably be a top of the hour.
Judgment Day something.
Jesus Christ. The women's matches are always good. I don't love, like, I'm tooting my own horn again with this whole Becky thing where it's like she has a challenger one night, but she's got a challenger before the night before. I just don't like that stuff. You've made it apparent that clearly I'm wrong, but I just feel like you could get more mileage out of these things if you could just wait. But that's just me.
I don't disagree with that, but I also think that this is the problem with having someone be a champion of a show they're not on, is because they still need her on Raw to be one of the top stars on Raw. So it's weird. It works better with a guy like Dom because he's kind of in the mid card anyways, and he doesn't really wrestle as much on the Mondays because he's kind of like the henchman for Priest in whatever. But with Becky, it's like she's such a focal point of Monday's show. To have her also be a focal point of Tuesday's show, it does kind of dilute it a little bit, but it is what it is.
My other point would be is there's 2 weeks of Halloween Havoc. Why not give her a week off and then have her night 2 a week after the fact? It would make more sense.
Because for whatever reason, they have Ilya and Carmelo main eventing the last one, and Becky and Lyra are main eventing night 1.
I don't know. It seems odd to me. It just seems an odd juxtaposition, but whatever. It is what it is.
I don't question the best booker of the year. But Nestlemania on SmackDown, we also have some stuff. As we mentioned, Logan Paul will be on the show. We have Santos Escobar taking on Montez Ford. That should be a fun little fight there. And then we also have a women's championship match between Io Sky and the Shoveler. Miss Heals herself, Charlotte Flair. Nestlemania. Does Charlotte win it?
Nope. You want to know why?
Bianca Belair's coming back and going to break it up?
Maybe. Could be Bianca. Could be Damage Control. Could be Jade.
Jade's been teased on every single show at this point. I kind of love it. She's closing out every show with little stare downs and all this shit.
It's happening. She's getting treated like a star, but Charlotte doesn't need a random championship victory in the middle of nowhere on SmackDown.
She doesn't, but you say that, but they've done
that's like
so
6
many.
Yeah, I know. I
don't even know. Every time she gets a shot, it's always a threat, especially a singles match, because there's no out like there was at the pay-per-view.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it'll be a fucking DQ or some fucking schmaz. I hope to Christ, because if it's her, I think if she wins, it's 15. So we're getting there.
One short. Yeah. So before we get to Halloween Havoc, I will say that it is Wednesday, so we're not going to preview Dynamite, but we can preview Rampage Nestlemania because there is a big debut on Rampage. Mystico, aka Sin Cara, will be taking on Rocky Romero.
When I saw this, I shit in my pants a little bit because I was just like, didn't they learn? Like, didn't they learn? Like, here's the thing. When you see something like that, you go, didn't they just watch what happened in WWE? Like, didn't they? You can blame it on the fucking mask. You can blame it on the shitty lighting. You can blame it on the fucking jumping trampoline or the pyrotechnics. I don't care. He still fucking sucked. But then you get him to Rampage where nobody's going to see him. Maybe he'll do a fucking great job. Maybe Rocky Romero can drag a fucking match out of this fucking ping pong guy and fucking everybody will love it. But honestly, it's going to be the drizzling shits because he is still stank. End of story.
I just hope they bring back the blue lighting because it was so bad. But we had to Saturday, where we collide with shit. And as we saw this week on Collision, is CJ Perry, aka Lana, is trying to recruit for people to manage. And Action Andretti signed himself up, being like, "Hey, I'll give you a call." And Nestlemania, Miro was on later, and he took exception to that. So he kind of beat up Action Andretti and gave a warning to anyone that wanted to link up with his wife that there was going to be a problem. So next week on Collision, we have Miro squashing Action Andretti.
I mean, I kind of like this whole dynamic.
I do too. It's interesting.
It's interesting where it's like, okay, eventually you would think, Tony, operative word, think that, yeah, well, that's snort. There's a difference. That eventually she'll find some guy that will probably be equal to Miro.
Bobby Lashley. They already did it.
I know.
He married him.
Powerhouse Hobbs, right? Who knows, right? But
God.
it'd be a terrible idea.
Him and Miro already had a meat match of the week. They had the debut meat match of the week.
That's true. But I just think there's got to be something that has to be it, right? Like there has to be something where he either backs off or she becomes the manager of Miro, which I don't think is helpful. I don't think that's good. We've already seen it. So it's all song and dance.
It's interesting how they handle it because she's also like done an interview where she said, it was funny. I don't know if you saw this, but she cited Dennis Rodman told her that her niche is being a manager. So she took that to heart and now she's all in on it. But that's a real thing. That's a real quote that she had. Dennis Rodman is the inspiration for her returning to managing. Yep.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. But yeah, so that's AEW this week. Obviously, we'll talk more about stuff next week. But Nestlemania, it's time to get spooky in here because it is Wednesday, so we can talk about NXT, and Halloween Havoc. There are 8 matches scheduled for next Tuesday night 1. We will start with Nestlemania match of the week. It is a singles match. It is between Braun Breaker and Mr. Stone.
I hope Braun Breaker breaks Stone in half, and then half again, and then half again. I want Stone to be off my TV for good.
Well, guess what? This, I think, is just a device to bring back your guy, Von Wagner. We kind of were talking about it for the show. We both kind of hope he has some sort of deformity, whether he's wearing a mask or something to kind of sell it, make him like more monsterish because it is Halloween. So why not bring back a monsterish type character in the Von Wagon? And him and Braun actually had a really fun match the first time. So I'm all about it. We know Von loves tables. The crowd loves tables. So I'm actually looking forward to that Nestlemania. We also have a debut next week on Halloween Havoc night 1. Lexis Kane will be making his debut against to be announced, but obviously this is Brian Pillman Jr. He will be making his debut, but his name in WWE will be Lexis Kane. These promos vignettes have been actually very good and very cool for him. So I'm excited to see how he gets the WWE treatment.
So my thought is, you can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Like when I look at him, I don't see a star. I don't see somebody that's going to be getting upper echelon anything. Like I look at him and I'm like, he'll be a serviceable person to plug and play, but he's not somebody that's going to end up making a contribution that I will be excited about. That's how I look at it for me. Now that's a bold statement, I'm sure, but I will say this much. He is not going to be in a good place in a year in the WWE where he is going to be leveraged in a point where everybody's going to be like, give me Alexis, give me Alexis King match. It's not going to fucking happen. It's just not. I think they're doing the best they can because anybody that comes over from AEW, they want to make sure they treat them properly. So they continue to do that.
Well, it's also he's a second generation. That's
I understand that and they get fucking boned up about it, whatever. If it was really that important, they would fucking trout that all over the goddamn place. But they clearly squashed it, which again, I like the promos. But when it comes to the in-ring stuff, unless he fucking got a personality change and his fucking wrestling changed, I'm not going to be excited to see him. I really am not. And so maybe TJ can tell me more about it and convince me. But I just
did you watch the vignettes?
I did. I thought they were great. But the other thing too is like, again, it just depends on the presentation, but it also depends on the 3-dimensionalness for me. And I look at him and I just feel like no matter what they give this kid, no matter what they do, he's still not going to get where he needs to be.
It's a tough one because it does kind of scream Michael McGillicuddy, Curtis Axel to me, where it's just like, it's right there, but their refusal to do it. And they're obviously doing the same thing with Braun Breaker, But I think Braun's a different animal where we know he's a future like WrestleMania main eventer, or at least he feels like it, that they could call him fucking Johnny to fucking Bonnie and it wouldn't matter because it's just like it, whatever. But I think when you have like these other guys, because like you alluded to, like, I mean, I don't have like high hopes for the kids, but I think with the WWE treatment and with like his like bloodline, I think he'll be the best chance for him to succeed. But it's like, if I were them with him in particular, I'd lean into the Pillman thing. And I like, obviously, like, I know there are pros and cons to both of it, but it's just one of those things. Like it's to me, it feels like the Curtis Axel thing where it's like, it's right there. It can work.
Just call him
And
Joe
I,
Hennig.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, to me, it never made sense. And look, I was someone who enjoyed Curtis Axel. I thought he did some good stuff. I thought he was underrated, but it just like there was a ceiling with him, and it's my fear because like this kid, I agree, he's not going to be the greatest thing ever, but I think he's someone who could have a role for a long period of time if they do it well. Because it's obviously it's just one of those things. But I don't know. I would have leaned into the Pillman thing more if I were them.
I'm just looking at NXT a lot, and we've had this conversation, and I'm sure you're going to put me on full blast, but it's the truth. It's just, I look at a lot of these people and I go, you'll make it. You'll have a spot. You'll have a spot. You'll definitely have a spot. And then there's like 60% of them where I'm like, you're never going to reach anywhere. You're just going to get canned.
If 60% is your number, then that's low. Cause it's like, and I've said this to you before, it's like, it's called developmental for a reason. Like NXT was something when they did it, when they first started, it was never meant to be like this big TV show. It's just, it became popular because people really enjoyed it. We're watching them literally try people out on TV, on television. It's literally like it's a tryout for them to be like, you're being put in this program, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, whether it's 3 years, to get you ready to be on the main roster. Some of you are going to make it, but a lot of you aren't. And I think it's really cool because it's one of those things, like it feels like you're getting a behind the scene and we're watching like young prospects. It's one of those things all the time. Like the NFL draft, you get so hyped for every year. 32 people go in the first round. These should be like 32 face of the franchise type players. But as we know, there's probably maybe 10 to 12 in a good draft that'll really actually impact players. You kind of have to look at NXT like that too, where you can look and be like, Braun Breaker, sure thing. No doubt about it. Carmelo Hayes, sure thing. No doubt about it. Oh, his guy Trick Williams, I don't know if I see it. Then all of a sudden, boom, look where we are now. Whoop, that Trick. He's one of the most over baby faces on the brand. It can happen. You see why they invested in him. This is a guy now, I see a future. Then there's others who some might go the other way. It's like, oh, this person, we thought really highly of them when they were on and they just kind of fizzled out and went away. Like that's how you have to look at NXT. So it's like, yeah, we're watching people fail every week, but I think it's kind of cool. And I don't know if you saw Bryan Danielson's comments he kind of had where he said he thinks more young people should wrestle in front of no one because he's like being in the critical eye when you're still learning is so tough. And I agree with that, but I also think at the same time, it's like, I think you can get people there a lot quicker and knowing right away, it's like, can you cut it or not? You know what I mean? And like, even if you fail, there might be someone who fails, goes somewhere else and succeeds or comes back later and succeeds. I think it's cool that we have this option. And it's crazy because we look at it every week. It feels like they're just turning. There's new people like that's a new face. That's a new face. It's competitive. And you know what competition breeds, Nestlemania? Greatness.
Okay. That's well put. I have nothing to say. When I watch NXT, I'm fatigued in terms of like, why don't they cut these people that aren't on television? It
was up to you. We've talked about this before. You want to fire everyone who's not a main event. You're like, why are you just placing on?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Because you rather watch reruns every week.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, This is what I'm saying is that for me, I can tell right away. If you gave me a roster as I've watched them, I can tell you right away who's going to make it and who's not. And I bet you I'd be 90% correct.
You're 90% is not, because this happens all the time. Like, you look at people, you wanted to fucking poo-poo Baron Corbin, you wanted to poo-poo Grayson Waller, and look at those diamonds, they fucking shine, baby. I think that's your biggest issue when you look at NXT is you look at us like, oh, a finished product. That person is not a finished product.
No, I'm not saying
that person is a raw, unchiseled piece of rock. And we don't know what it's going to be yet. We could crack that baby a little bit, and it could shine brighter than anything we've seen before. Or we could crack it, and it could just dissolve in our hands. But you know what? We got to find out. You got to give it time to find out. Things don't just happen overnight, Nestlemania. They don't.
I'm just saying, you tell me that Briggs and Jensen, I don't think they're gonna fucking matter.
I mean,
Like,
I've never been on the Briggs and Jensen
no,
chain, so we
like
can use them as an
Al-
example. But I also think
Alan
like I
Henley's gonna
understand.
be a big star, but like, there's
You've
other
been
people.
saying that, but it's like one of those things. She's got jumped by everyone. I like her too, but big star. I don't know about that. I think she's someone who
I mean,
maybe could
Lola
have a
obviously
future.
makes a fucking splash. We know.
I mean, Lola was a star before she came to WWE. She was
Right.
a well-known, had a following, so she makes a lot of sense. And this tournament, it's just we can get there next. The NXT Women's Breakout Tournament semifinal. This is one of those things. They've done it with the men a few times too, and it was like I think it was the first one had the guy that ended up having had the issues and were gone.
Yeah,
But we've seen some like come from here and like become big members of the roster. But it's one of those things. It's like Lola's opponent is me and Danny Thap, our girl Carmen Petrovic. She had her first ever match on NXT Nestlemania, and she's in the semifinals. I mean, this girl, you look at her, she looks like a star for many reasons, but her entrance is pretty dope. She's very young. She is very raw, but you can definitely see what they see in her. And putting her and Lola in a match together, I think NXT knows what they're doing. So I'm very excited for that. I'm going to pick Lola to win because I want her to win this tournament, even though you're going to see I'm not going to pick her to win the tournament, but I think she makes the fights.
wow. I would thought this was a Lola landslide, to be honest with you, but that's beside the point. I like the Carmen thing. I think her and Nikita as a tag team with their ninjas, ninja swords and like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bullshit with their fucking swords and whatever. Like two badass.
You got Finn going there too.
Yeah, let's do it
for everyone.
Yeah, the blonde tigeress stuff. I love it. It's great. This is my cup of tea. But then, yeah, and then Lola's a fucking slam dunk. You can see it. And on the other side of the bracket, I'm like, those two, you can see those will work too, but the name needs to change for some of them.
Yeah, I know you're critical of the names, but I was literally because I did this because I was curious because I was like, yeah, I know WWE used to like shorten names and stuff, but I'm looking and I'm looking at the like the women's roster. I'm like Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. Like go down the list and they all have like names and it's like, yeah, you shorten them like we call Becky. Like, you know what I mean? We call Rhea, but it's like they still have the full name. So I see Carmen Petrovic. I'm going to call her Carmen for the most part. Yeah. I see Ariana Grace. You're probably just going to call her Ariana. Or is it Ariana or Ariana? I never know. I think it's Ariana. You see Kalani Jordan. We're probably just going to call her Kalani.
Well, why couldn't you call her Ariana Morella? You know what I mean? Like, there you go.
That's not the name they chose. I mean, her character kind of does have grace. She's like a princess.
No, I know. But so she has a big future in terms of being like, she's not going to be
Santino's daughter, for those of you that don't know.
But she's gonna be somebody like a Chelsea. You know what I mean? She can slip on a banana peel and probably get hosed down and it's fine. You know what I mean? But she's not gonna be a fucking badass.
Down?
Like by pudding or whatever, or like
she's on a fantasy right now?
No, it's just whatever. I mean, it is the cast.
Our boy Bertsky loves Ariana Grace.
Of course he does. Bertsky, it's not
Simping ain't easy over there for Bertsky.
I love Bertsky. I think he's got an eye for talent.
I mean, we agree on that here, but that is the other side of the brackets. Her versus Kalani Jordan. I mean, we've seen Kalani Jordan wrestle a little bit now. She was on the pre-show for the pay-per-view. Her athleticism is absolutely insane. Like she literally is like fucking watching Gumby out there. The shit that she does. It's one of those things. It's like she's like a bigger, more athletic version of Casey Catanzaro. She's kind of a more like flushed out Naomi. She's very young too, but she's actually, I'm going to pick her to beat Ariana Grace. And then on night 2, when we have Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice in the finals WrestleMania, I think Kalani Jordan's going to win this thing. I don't know. I just have this feeling. I feel like she probably needs it more than Lola too, but she's also someone they've been highlighting for a while. She was the one like hanging out with Dana Brooke before Dana Brooke went on her way. So they definitely think highly of her too. But I think these 4 in particular, for all different reasons too, because they're 4 very different characters. It's just like you're adding to that fucking stable of super talented women at NXT.
And I just thought to myself, like, we haven't seen Wendy Chu in a while. We haven't seen Nikita. Like, there's so many, like Cora Jade,
Saul Ruka.
Yeah, like so many women that are just fucking. They're amazing. They're like they hit the fucking jackpot. But what are we doing? Like,
I mean, we talk about how like thin it feels like the main roster divisions are at some point. Obviously, this year they called up a lot of them. Indy came up, but they haven't really done much with her yet. They called up the 2 different tag teams. They haven't done a lot with them yet, so they definitely have the horses. I think it's just one of those things. Is they almost have too much talent than what the WWE is willing to book. But we've talked about it here. There are 5 women matches on Halloween Havoc Night 1 because there is one man in wrestling who correctly books women. NXT is the best booked women's show. And it's not even close. HBK does a phenomenal job. They're highlighted. They get time. They have feuds over non-titles. They have multiple women matches almost every week. They have backstage segments. They have fleshed out characters. They have vignettes. They get promo time. And it allows all these women to grow. It's just the fear becomes when you get to the main roster, it feels like it just, like we talked about, Raw did a good job this week. For the most part, it's been all over the place. SmackDown's been a complete mess. So at some point they have to figure it out because the talent's there. So it's like now everyone else has to figure it out beyond NXT.
All right.
We do, as you mentioned, other women's match. The first of the spin the wheel, make a deal matches. It is a Devil's Playground match between another super talented young woman, Roxanne Perez and Kiana James. I feel like this is the Roxanne's come up because I think her and Kiana have had a couple matches at this point. So it feels like the stamp for Roxanne on this feud.
I don't think Roxanne can do any more in NXT at this point. It's like she's super young. She probably can't come up, but like she's between a rock and a hard place because she is super talented. You can see it. She's ready to go.
Yeah.
But what do you do with her, right? Like
I think Tiffany Stratton's entered the same realm now that she's dropped the title. We kind of seen it since Roxanne's dropped the title. It's like she has stuff here and there. She worked with Blair Davenport a little bit. Now she's doing this. But yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those, we're kind of treading water till we get to the Rumble. And then after WrestleMania, I think she's full-time on one of the brands. But again, it's another girl that's super young. So they know they have plenty of time with her. But it just feels like she goes over here on Kiana. And then the other women's match is the other spin the wheel, make a deal. It is a lights out match between the aforementioned Blair Davenport and Gigi Dolan.
Lights out, bitch. I went, wow, that'll put butts in the seats. So I've soured on Gigi. So I've never been a fan of Blair Davenport. I just think that woman just looks like she wants to be a wrestler but can't be a wrestler. Like in my mind, like she just doesn't do it for me. So
she's not a WWE wrestler, unfortunately. I don't think.
Not. Yeah, and I think she's older, which it works against her too. She looks like she's sucking on some sour pickles when she's talking. Like it just the whole face just doesn't work. And so for me, I just
her whole face just doesn't work. Oh my god!
I don't know. I'm just over it. I'm just fucking over it. Like let's just move on. You know?
Yeah, I think we agree with Gigi. Unfortunately, there are a couple of reasons why we really love Gigi, but I think we always knew there were weaknesses in her game. And since she's been solo, I think they've really shown, which is unfortunate. I think to succeed, she has to be in a tag team. And I think there's plenty of people that would benefit from working with Gigi. But Nestlemania, we have 2 more matches here to get over on night 1. We have a tag team championship for the NXT tag team titles. Out of nowhere, Chase University, Andre Chase and Duke Hudson won the little battle royal. They will be taking on, the family who are having some gabagool and spaghetti and meatballs at ringside. Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo. I'm taking the family to retain.
Family have to retain. They haven't really had too many title wins yet. They've had a couple good ones on takeovers or whatever pay-per-views they've been doing. But I will say this much. I look at Chase U. There's a ceiling with Chase U too.
Oh yeah, they're an NXT act, 100%.
There's no way that transfers to the main roster. I'm sorry. 100%. Maybe Andre Chase. Maybe, but I don't think that Duke Hudson is taking up space in my opinion. And I think Andre Chase can do what he can, but they're not going to give him the treatment that they give him with promos that they do on NXT on the main roster. It's just not going to happen.
The gimmick also doesn't work in a bigger arena. It's perfect for the small arena. Yeah. It's one of those things like why, when it was probably one of my least favorite, like he was part of a breakout tournament. Like, I was like, I get it. It's fun. And a lot of people really loved it. But I'm like, it was just one of those, like, this is an NXT thing. And it's fun. It was the same thing as like Wendy Chu's last gimmick. I absolutely loved it. But I understand it's an NXT thing. So if there's ever going to be more, it has to change. And with Andre Chase, it's kind of like his whole identity. Whereas Duke Hudson just kind of adopted it because he kind of just took the role because someone else got fired. And Duke was kind of like struggling. Looked like he was going to be gone. And to his credit, he's been a great addition to what it's been a really like fun little act. Like I enjoy it, but yeah, it's an upside thing. So yeah, it's one of those things they keep in NXT forever and they could just keep bringing in prospects to go underneath it. Like they did with Thea and kind of like bouncing her out bigger. Maybe that's the move.
Yeah. But then Andre Trace never gets his fucking comeuppance, but whatever.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. It's like, to me, he falls in that Drew Gulak category where it's like, he's amazing at what he does, but it's one of those, like, he's never going to be a guy, So
it's just to me, those are the house. I don't ever want to see anybody lose their job, but I want to see someone else. Like if he's holding a spot for somebody else, I want someone else to have the time.
Yeah, but see, the problem with that is I think for everyone to be better, you need those people in place. You need those experienced type people in the environment, because if you have just all prospects going willy-nilly, it's just like, well, who are they learning from? Who's someone that can take them under, you know what I mean? So I think there's a value to those type of guys, and why it's like a mix, and why you see a lot of them like become like trainers or working after. Like, look at Only Lorcan's my boy. I absolutely loved him, but it was one of those things we saw him. It's like, yeah, he's good in a tag team, but I don't know if he's gonna be more. But now he's back there working as like a producer and a trainer and stuff, because it's like that's like his thing. He was a very experienced guy. He was super talented and has a lot to offer. So I think it's smart to have those people involved, because I think that's how you really develop the super prospects that you're trying to build. Like one of the big reasons why Becky Lynch came down to NXT was to work with Tiffany Stratton to kind of like polish that diamond and get her ready. And I think that was a huge benefit for her. And speaking of Becky Lynch, another diamond she could possibly polish here in the main event of night one, singles match for the NXT Women's Championship. Lyra Valkyria takes on Becky Lynch. TJ and I kind of were in agreement. We felt like Lyra would be the one to eventually dethrone Becky. Obviously, we're getting this match now, so maybe it doesn't feel that way. Maybe she turns heel and we get it down the line. I don't know, but I'm excited for this match because I think Lyra is really good, and I want to see what she can do against a top-level superstar.
I'm still confuzzled on the gimmick of what Lyra really is. Like, it's like they started out with the flying wing thing, and like she looked like a vigilante.
Comes out with wings. Yeah.
But now it's just like, what are you? You're just a woman with an accent who really kicks ass, which is she's fighting someone that's a woman with an accent that kicks ass. So, and I understand that they have a background and they have a history, and that's wonderful. But at the same time, I look at it like, okay, like I don't think she's the one that's going to beat Becky. I would assume Tiffany Stratton is the one to get it back at some point, but we'll see.
We're moving on, baby, because I think Tiffany has to go to the Tiffy top come Rumble season. But Nestlemania Night 2, we have two things booked. It is the finals of the Breakout Tournament. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be Kalani over Lola.
I would be shocked because I feel like Lola's got the buzz, but Kalani's pretty good too. So it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with this because I think they get like a championship match, and like I think Roxanne won the first one or whatever. And I feel like I could see Kalani getting the shot because she's probably more ready. Because look, I love Lola, she's incredible, but she's still pretty raw. The fact that she's already doing what she's doing in such a short time is, I think, super impressive, because I think she's well on her way. But it's like she's still so new to wrestling. Same with like Carmen, they're so raw, and Ariana Grace is coming off a big injury. So to me, it just feels like Kalani's someone who can step in and they can really test against a Becky right now. But Nestlemania, the only other match we have for night 2 as of this moment, it is a singles match for the NXT Championship. It is part 3 of the Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes trilogy. I'm assuming Ilya will retain, but I think the most interesting thing surrounding this is obviously Trick was supposed to be added to this #1 contender match. He was taken out. Melo was obviously visibly upset. People think that maybe he was the one that took out his best friend because he was a little jealous of everything going on. So obviously Ilya's been a big supporter of Trick. So there's a lot of moving parts here with this stuff.
Somebody keeps making the joke of the Triple H and Shawn Michaels feud, you know, that's what they're going with here. And I don't doubt it. The problem I see is that it's really, really interesting to me that like Trick kind of is the thorn in the side and like the new hotness, and Carmelo's been constant, right? So it's like longevity versus spark. It's very interesting to me because that wasn't the HBK Triple H thing. So
yeah, and this obviously had the personal relationship, but huge win. I don't know if you're aware, but Valerie Loretta is Lola Vice, so we've been talking about her for about 20 minutes. But yeah, no, that's the main event. I'm assuming you think Ilya is going to retain here.
I would think so, yes.
Do you think Melo is the one who attacked Trick? Because I don't think so. I'm assuming it's just going to be fucking like Judgment Day or some bullshit.
I would think that it's more interesting because Carmelo is not ready to go up to the main roster, apparently, if you ask HBK. So I feel like Trick and
HBK doesn't want to lose him. That's his golden goose.
Well, that's his boy, yeah. So I would say like Trick and Carmelo have to fucking happen. So I'm gonna go off on the reservation and say it was.
Yeah, I think our boy the Joe Stopper said it in the chat last week. It feels like Carmelo should do the duty of putting over his buddy Trick before he leaves NXT. Because I do think that in the new year, whether it's the Rumble, whether it's after WrestleMania, obviously Melo's up. I don't know if Trick's with him. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like they're going to break him up, and Trick feels like he could be someone who could carry into the new year as one of the top stars down there, as someone who it feels like they kind of caught lightning in a bottle. Like I always understood it that he had talent. I wasn't sure about the wrestling ability, but we've seen him have some pretty good matches now. So he's turned himself, I think, into a prospect himself, which I think it's cool. And I think that's part of why people are really drawn to the Triple H HBK thing. Cause it's like, I think people are finally viewing, wow, Trick was kind of the wingman. Now I kind of see him. It's like, this guy's pretty cool in his own right and kind of handle his own. So it's interesting for sure.
Okay. Anything else you want to get out of here?
I'm done, bro.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you for listening and watching the Jobber Knocker podcast. We'll be back next week at our regularly scheduled Tuesday, hopefully. And that is that, folks. We'll see you next time on the Jobber Knocker.
You're so fucking weird.